really should make bulletin points for these videos, but I can't. I'm too scatterbrained. Anyways, we are gonna do a book review for TRESS of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I'm gonna start off this video by saying that I have never read anything by Brandon Sanderson except this book, and I really liked it. So I gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was amazing. Now, the main things that made me think it was amazing is because the characters felt new. They felt like characters I'd never read before, and the world and the story was something that I have read before, but the way that it was written and the way that like role reversals were made, just everything felt new. I felt like I was experiencing something for the first time again, which honestly is kind of sad to say now that I think about it, with how many fantasy books come out, and you know, you would expect there to be a lot of variety, and yeah, the worlds are very different a lot of times, but there's always like repetitions of things that like make sense if you've read enough fantasy. But this book, it was just enjoyable. It was quite amazing. So I may have spoilers at times. If I do say anything spoiler-y when I edit this video, I'll just put up like a little spoiler thing like in a top corner or something so that y'all don't have to worry about it too much. But TRESS of the Emerald Sea is about Tress, who is a girl who's very normal, and you believe it, that she's just kind of doing what she has to do, and she lives on this island in the middle of a sea, and the sea is not a sea that you would expect. It is a sea of spores. Like, I just imagined colored pollen that was just going on for miles and miles and stretched out and would kind of move like an ocean, like a little bit wavy, but yeah, that's what it is. And those spores are quite dangerous. Particularly, they react to water. Now, on their island, it's not a great island, it's not a great place to live, but no one's allowed to leave, because if they leave, the economy crashes. And so they're kind of imprisoned on their island, but it's made to be like, well, we still just live here. It's, you know, they're not being beaten or anything, but it's impossible to leave. But Tress has a cute little friendship with the Duke's son, and it's so cute because she knows that he's the Duke's son, and he, like, I think he knows that she knows, but he's still playing this act of like, no, I'm just like some butler who's meaningless, and you know, it doesn't matter what happens to me or whatever. And then one day the Duke, you know, he sees them chatting together in the garden and he doesn't like it, and he's like, my son is going to marry a princess. And so he takes him on a ship, and the Duke just looks at Tress and he's like, I'm so sorry to break it to you like this, but I'm the Duke's son. And she's like, oh my God, like they have this whole thing. It's adorable. I love it. But so yeah, he leaves, and then he says, don't worry, I will bore these other women to death, because that's his thing, is that he's extremely, not boring, but he will talk and talk and talk about things that everyone else thinks is very uninteresting. I'm sorry, my cat is, what are you doing? She's got zoom eyes. Better not do anything crazy. Okay? And he can talk about a topic forever, and it just drives people crazy. So, because he was failing so miserably at finding a wife, his dad, the Duke, made a trade to send him out to this sorceress who everyone's terrified of her, and he basically replaced his son. Tress learns about this when they come back, which is like a year or two later, a year and a half later, and he's been sending her mugs because she loves cups. Mugs, cups, whatever, and she hadn't been receiving them in a while, and she figured, you know, he moved on from me, and then the news about him finding a wife or whatever, and then she sees that the Duke's son is not the Duke's son, and she's like, what the fuck happened to my boo? And so she's like, I'm getting off this island. And she gets very creative with how to get off the island, because again, you can't technically get off the island. She gets very creative with getting off, and she manages to get off, and then that turns into a whole adventure, and then she ends up meeting a talking rat. This is probably gonna start getting spoilery around here, but I really just want to talk about this book and everything that happens and why I loved it so much, because I think that me talking about what happens in the book is the reason why I enjoyed it so much. The banter and the interactions, the characters, how different they were. So yeah, this is probably going to be kind of a spoilery review. I just realized that. So she meets the rat. The rat ends up being a familiar to this sorceress that lives in the Red Sea. That is another thing, is that the seas have different colors. So there's the green one that Tress comes from. There is oh no, the sorceress lives in the Black Sea. So the green one, I'm sure there's probably a yellow one, but they end up going to the Red Sea, which is when the spores meet with water in the Red Sea, they turn into what I pictured was like needles, like glass needles almost, or like ruby needles. And the Emerald Sea, when the spores have contact with water, they turn into vines. And it was quite terrifying at one point. Like it was explaining that the vines will try and go into your nose and then up to your brain. Or they don't even go into your brain. They actually leave your brain alone so you can feel all the pain. It's horrible. Then the Black Sea, the way that the spores worked with that, I thought was fascinating. And the way that Tress learns to use the spores and to kind of manipulate them, because she does end up, this is all over the place, she does end up on a ship. So she meets the rat, right? And then the ship that she stowed away in, they are being attacked by pirates, and those pirates end up basically killing everyone except for her, and she manages to get on the pirate ship. Now the pirate ship is going through something where they're just like, it's rough. Like, pirates don't typically kill people. They will steal and they will take things, but they won't kill people, because once you kill people, that puts you in a place where even other pirates don't want to deal with you because you're on some kind of really bad blacklist or whatever. And so she's on that ship and there's shit going on, but here she meets so many cool people. You meet, I forgot his name. You meet Fort, who is deaf, and he has what I imagine that it was kind of like a tablet, like an iPad or whatever, but in this world they didn't call it that, or like a whiteboard that just would have writing that would appear on it for him to be able to read on one side and then you to be able to read that he's saying on the other. It was really, really cool. So that's how he communicated. And then you had the carpenter, who she sounded so funny. There was a moment, oh gosh, the thing is too, I read this book as like a library loan, so I couldn't write in it, and I wish I had, because there were some moments that I was like, oh my god, I want to save this moment. Essentially, there's a scene in which the carpenter on the ship, or the shipwright, she really wants to shoot things, but she has terrible aim, like horrible aim. They even said, like, at one point, she was like, yeah, I was trying to shoot and my instructor was behind me and somehow I shot him. And they're like, how does that happen? How do you shoot someone behind you? But at one point they're like attacking and they're winning, and she is like getting real cocky and she like grabs her gun and she goes to shoot someone, because like all they have to do is shoot that one person, and everyone's like, no. They all jump on her to stop her. It was so funny. And then the captain on the pirate ship, she was terrifying and convincingly terrifying. Like, because the mood of the book was it was kind of upbeat, joyful, very fast banter, sarcastic and all that, but there were moments where like you would get reminded that no, there are terrible people here, and this captain is one of those people. She is mercilessly killing people. And then you have the dragon that's under the Red Sea that's like, yeah, I just need some slaves. And it's like, it's rough. And even Tress goes through so much, but she's just a regular girl and she has to adapt to times, and she ends up having to become useful. And the way she becomes useful is she learns to be the spore technician, basically, where she learns how to use spores, and she actually gets very interested in it. But it's exhausting for her because she's never done that. She's never even been remotely interested in spores. It was just so interesting. And then now we're really getting into the spoilers. When they go to the Black Sea, so she learns to use the black spores, which are basically a way of, you are offering those spores, they're more conscious spores almost. You offer more water to them in order to be able to shape them and mold them into a creature of blackness that can do your bidding. And the sorceress, that's her specialty, I guess, is that she has a whole bunch of them. And so Tress figures, okay, I can probably manipulate these into like in my favor so that I can save my boo, you know? I don't even remember his name. I just realized I remember Tress's name, but I don't remember his name. Charlie was his name. It wasn't Henry, it was Charlie. So she is going to the sorceress to find her boo Charlie. What ends up happening? She ends up being kidnapped by the sorceress, and the sorceress is known for, she will inflict the worst possible curse on you. The curse that will inflict the most pain to you. So she takes Tress, and there's a whole interaction there that Tress is so smart. and I love it. But she finds out that the talking rat that's been traveling with her, Huck, is Charlie. And let me fucking tell you that the whole time I was thinking, I was like, okay, it's either the cabin boy man, I forgot his name too. Huck? No, Huck was the name of the rat, or Charlie, because he couldn't fucking say his whole name. Hoyd was his name. So, what was I saying? So Hoyd was also cursed by the sorceress, but you understand that Hoyd is from like another planet, and he's actually super powerful, but his curse, he lost all his senses. But the thing is that it's so funny, the play on words. He lost all his senses, but it's not like, you know, oh, he lost his mind. No, he lost his sense of style, his sense of taste, his sense of just like different senses that make a person who they are, his sense of logic, his like just different things, and it's so freaking funny. But he is the only person who can actually defeat the sorceress, and he got cursed by the sorceress just as a bet, as like, oh, I bet that I can break out of it. It's so fucking stupid. And his interaction with the zombie guy on the ship, that was freaking great too. Just golden interactions. Loved it. And just the characters themselves, so much fun. But yes, you learn that Charlie was Huck the whole time. It explains so many things as to why Huck was constantly trying to get Tress to get away, and why Huck was, you know, almost doing things that were hurtful, even though he wanted her to be with him. But you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I should have seen that, because he was so attached to her. And also, like, he would change his answers all the time. Like, it was just, there were so many hints and I didn't fucking see it. So yes, I really love this book. I'm sorry if there were so many spoilers in here and like you just wanted a cohesive review. I can't fucking do that for this book. I really liked it. Do I think that I will pick up more Brandon Sanderson books? I'm definitely going to read his next secret project, because if they're kind of in the same vein, then I'm in. The reason that I stay away from his really big books and his like massive following is because they're a little intense, you know, like his, what is it? I forget what it's called, like The Way of Kings or whatever. Like those are massive books. They're 1,000 goddamn pages. And I've heard that, yes, they are very good. You know, they can also be really hard to get into. The Mistborn ones I've been told are probably better for me to try. I do have Mistborn, the era 1 or what. That's the other thing. There's so many fucking eras. I'm like, dude, I can't keep up with all your shit. Like, just make one trilogy and then make a separate one. Like, don't do all these different fucking pieced together things. But as a standalone, this book was amazing. And I'm sure that fans of Brandon Sanderson probably saw a lot of Easter eggs. They probably saw connections. I mean, it did mention the Cosmere, and it did mention, you know, some characters coming from different places where I'm sure fans were probably like, oh my God, yeah, that's from that thing in that place and whatever. But if you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend it if you want something that's fun, full of banter, has great characters, and an amazing story, world building that just, it felt new. It felt, yeah, I went on an adventure with this book and I loved it. Also, the author's note at the end was really cool, because he did say that the story was basically based off of The Princess Bride, and a conversation he had with his wife, where his wife said, well, what if Buttercup did a little more? Like, what if she didn't just assume that he had died, right? Because the whole story is that he went on a ship or whatever, and she's like, oh, well, he's probably dead now. She's like, well, what if she actually went after him to try and see if he really did die? And it's based on that. I'm like, that's actually really cool. That is I love that. I absolutely adore it. So, really love this book. Hope you'll pick it up. And if you did listen to the spoilers and you think that, you know, takes away from you enjoying this book, I promise you it doesn't, because the way that I just spoke about all these spoilers was so freaking just chaotic that just read it. You'll love it. I hope you'll love it. It's very good. Yeah. See you in the next one. Bye.
Things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back.